The wind cut through Taiho's thermal suit like a knife made of ice. He leaned against the frozen ground, trying to fix the heating coil for the third time that morning. His fingers were numb despite the heavy gloves. Around him stretched endless white plains of ice and snow, broken only by a few scattered domes where the other humans lived. 20 years. 20 long years since humanity had been kicked out of the Galactic Council. 20 years since they had been scattered across the worst planets in the galaxy. Frost Haven was one of those planets, cold, dark, and nearly dead. Taiho was 42 years old now. He used to be an agricultural engineer on Earth's beautiful colony worlds. Now he was just a farmer trying to grow food where nothing should grow. His face was weathered from the cold winds. His hands were rough from endless work, but he never stopped trying. The heating coil sparked to life. Taiho allowed himself a small smile. Maybe today would be different. Maybe today his modified seeds would finally sprout in the frozen soil. Then the sky grew darker. A storm was coming. Taiho cursed under his breath and started gathering his tools. These ice storms could freeze a person solid in minutes. He had to get back to the dome. The wind picked up. Snow began to fall sideways. Taiho ran toward his equipment shelter, but the ground beneath him suddenly gave way. He fell, sliding down into darkness. His thermal drill had broken through into something below the ice. Taiho landed hard on a smooth surface. His flashlight flickered on. He was in a massive cavern, larger than any building he had ever seen. And in the center of the cavern stood something impossible. It was a crystal taller than a house, glowing with a soft blue light. Inside the crystal he could see shapes, movements like something was trapped inside. The crystal hummed, a sound that seemed to vibrate in his chest. Taiho approached slowly. The walls of the cavern were covered in markings. They looked familiar somehow, like letters he should recognize but could not read. His hand reached out almost on its own and touched the crystal. Images exploded in his mind. Ships flying through space, more ships than stars in the sky. Battles that shook planets. Humans, proud and strong, standing beside creatures he had never seen. And a dragon, its scales shining like captured starlight flying alongside human vessels. Taiho pulled his hand back, gasping. What was this place? What was this crystal? He looked around the cavern again and noticed something. His thermal equipment up above was bleeding heat down into the cavern. The temperature here was rising. Over the next 3 days, Taiho kept coming back. He told no one. He could not explain why. The crystal was warming. Small cracks began to appear on its surface. Whatever was inside was waking up. On the 4th day, the crystal shattered. Light filled the cavern so bright that Taiho had to cover his eyes. When he could see again, he stood frozen in place. A dragon stood before him. Not like the small creatures in old Earth stories. This dragon was enormous, its head nearly touching the cavern ceiling. Its scales shimmered with colors that did not exist in nature. Its eyes were like looking into deep space, filled with distant stars. The dragon's head swung toward Taiho. It opened its mouth, showing teeth that could bite through steel. Taiho should have run. He should have screamed. Instead, he held up his hands and spoke, "Please. I mean no harm. I am alone. Just a farmer." The dragon paused. Its eyes focused on him, really seeing him for the first time. When it spoke, its voice was like wind through mountains, ancient and powerful. "Where are the warriors? Where are the great ships? Where are the builders of bridges between stars?" The dragon looked around the empty cavern. "Where are the humans?" Taiho swallowed hard. "I am human. We are still here, but things have changed." The dragon moved closer. Taiho could feel the heat coming from its body. You are human?" No, the humans I knew stood proud. They sailed the stars. They united the scattered peoples. They were legends. "That was a long time ago," Taiho said quietly. "We lost a war. We were banished. Now we survive on worlds like this, far from everyone else." The dragon stared at him for a long moment. Then to Taiho's surprise, it lay down, its great body curled up, wings folding against its sides. "How long?" it whispered. "How long was I imprisoned?" "I do not know. But the markings in here are old. Very old. Maybe 10,000 years. The dragon made a sound like grief. 10,000 years. They have been gone for 10,000 years. The humans I knew, my friends, all dust now." The great creature's eyes closed. "I am Mirai. I was a guardian of humanity, and I failed them." Taiho felt unexpected tears on his face. He understood grief. He understood failure. "My name is Taiho, and you did not fail. We are still here. We survive." Over the next week, an unlikely friendship formed. Mirai was weak from her long imprisonment. She could barely fly, could barely summon her powers. Taiho brought her food, though she ate little. Mostly, she needed heat, and Taiho redirected all his thermal equipment to warm the cavern. They talked. Mirai told stories of ancient days when humans were the greatest explorers in the galaxy, when they built ships that could sail between stars like others might cross a street, when other species came to humans for help, for wisdom, for justice. Taiho told her about now, about colonies struggling to survive, about humans working as laborers for other species, about how the younger generation did not even know their own history. One evening, Taiho sat beside Mirai, humming an old song while he worked on his equipment. Mirai's eyes snapped open. That song. Where did you learn that song? Taiho shrugged. My grandmother taught me. She learned it from her grandmother. It is just an old lullaby. It is 10,000 years old, Mirai said softly. A warrior named Jay used to sing it before battles. He said it reminded him of home. She looked at Taiho with new eyes. You carry their songs. You carry their spirit. Perhaps humanity is not as lost as I thought. But their peace could not last. Kyung, the colony administrator and a former military commander, discovered Taiho's secret. He came to the cavern with security forces, weapons ready. Step away from that creature, Taiho, Kyung commanded. We detected energy readings. We thought it was equipment failure. But this thing could bring death to all of us. Taiho stood between Mirai and the guns. She is not a thing. Her name is Mirai. She knew our ancestors. She was their friend. Fairy tales, Kyung said. Dragons do not exist. That is some alien creature and we need to report it to the council. The council that banished us? Taiho challenged. The council that took everything from us? Why would we tell them anything? Before Kyung could answer, alarms blared throughout the colony. A ship was entering orbit. A Kethran patrol vessel. They were responding to unusual energy signatures from the planet. The Kethrans. The species that led the fight to banish humanity. The species that now dominated the Galactic Council. They had found Frost Haven. Kyung's face went pale. Hide it, hide her now. He looked at his security team. If the Kethrans find out about this creature, they will use it as an excuse to destroy this entire colony. Taiho worked frantically to mask the cavern's energy signature. Mirai helped, using what little power she had recovered to create a dampening field. But as the Kethran investigators landed on the surface, Mirai spoke quietly to Taiho. They are not here by accident. They have been searching for me. The Kethrans imprisoned me 10,000 years ago because I know something they fear. What? Taiho asked. Mirai's eyes glowed in the darkness. I know where the Starforge is. The lost capital of humanity. The place where all your legendary technology was built. If you help me recover my strength, I can take you there. I can help humanity rise again. And if the Kethrans find you first, then humanity's last hope dies here on this frozen world, and you will never know what you once were. Above them, Kethran boots crunched on the ice. Investigators spread across the colony, searching. Taiho looked at Mirai, at this ancient creature who remembered humanity's glory. He thought about his daughter Hana, growing up in exile, never knowing what humans had once achieved. He made his choice. Then we hide you. We protect you. And when you are strong enough, you show us the way home. Mirai bowed her great head. You have the spirit of those I knew. Perhaps humanity's flame never truly died. Perhaps it only waited for someone to tend it, like a farmer tending his fields. The Kethrans searched for 3 days. They found traces of the crystal chamber but could not locate the cavern itself. Frustrated, they left warnings that they would return. The moment their ship left orbit, Kyung came to Taiho. Tell me everything, he demanded. If this creature can really help us, if there is even a chance she speaks truth, then we need to know. Because the Kethrans will be back and next time they will bring more ships. So Taiho told him. He told him about the visions, about the ancient songs, about the Starforge. And as he spoke, he saw something change in Kyung's face. The old soldier's expression shifted from suspicion to something else. Hope. Dangerous, fragile hope. If this is true, Kyung said slowly, then we are not just protecting a creature. We are protecting humanity's future. He looked toward the hidden cavern. Tell her we will help. Tell her all of Frost Haven will help. But she needs to get strong and she needs to do it fast. That night, Taiho brought his daughter Hana to meet Mirai. The teenage girl stared in wonder at the dragon, her eyes wide. She is real, Hana whispered. The stories are real. Yes, Mirai said gently. And so is the story of your people. You come from legends, little one. Never forget that. As Hana touched Mirai's scales, as father and daughter stood beside an ancient dragon in a cavern beneath the ice, something changed. The weight of 20 years of defeat began to lift. For the first time since the banishment, humans dared to dream of something more than mere survival. They dared to dream of home. The deep ice caverns beneath Frost Haven became a secret refuge. Taeho moved equipment down piece by piece, careful not to draw attention. Mirai needed heat to recover, so he diverted thermal generators from the farming zones. Some crops would die, but what good were crops if humanity had no future? Hana came every day after her studies. She sat beside Mirai for hours, listening to stories of ancient times. The dragon spoke of human cities that floated among the stars, of ships that could travel across the galaxy in days, of technologies that seemed like magic but were really just science perfected over thousands of years. We had something called quantum drives, Mirai explained one day. Your ancestors understood that space could be folded, that distances were illusions. They did not travel through space. They made space come to them. Hana's eyes shone with excitement. Could I learn this? Could we rebuild it? Perhaps, Mirai said. But first we need materials, specific crystals and metals. They are rare now, controlled by the Galactic Council. The Catherans make sure humans cannot access them. Kyung joined them in the cavern that evening. The old soldier looked tired, older than his years. I have contacts, he said. Traders who move goods quietly. There is a Kethran supply convoy passing through the outer sectors next week. They carry rare materials to their shipyards. Taeho stared at him. You want to raid a Kethran convoy? That is suicide. It is necessary, Kyung replied. Mirai needs those materials to fully heal. Without them, she remains weak. And weak, she cannot show us the path to the Starforge. He paused. I fought in the last war, Taeho. I commanded fleets. I watched us lose everything. If there is even a small chance to reclaim what we lost, I will take it. Mirai lifted her head. You were a warrior. I was an admiral, Kyung said quietly. Until I led my fleet into a trap. Thousands died. The war ended. We surrendered. His voice was bitter. So yes, dragon. I was a warrior. Now I am just a man trying to keep people alive on a frozen rock. You are still a warrior, Mirai said. Defeat does not change what you are. It only tests it. She looked at Taeho. I am not yet strong enough for a direct fight, but I can help. My powers are returning slowly. Over the next days they planned. A trader named Duri, a Vrelnian with 4 arms and skin like blue stone, agreed to help. He had his own reasons to dislike the Kethrans. His people had been conquered centuries ago, forced into servitude. I will get you close to the convoy, Duri said through his translator device. My ship is small, not seen as a threat. But the Kethran escorts have heavy weapons. You will have only minutes before they respond. Summon, a young engineer from the colony, joined their team. She was brilliant with technology, able to understand alien systems faster than anyone Taeho had met. I can hack their cargo locks, she said. Get me close enough and I can open their containers without triggering alarms. The day of the raid came. Taeho, Kyung, Soman, and 3 other volunteers boarded Duri's battered freighter. Mirai came too, her form somehow compressed, smaller than before. She explained she could shift her size, though it took effort. The convoy consisted of 3 cargo haulers and 2 escort frigates. They moved through deep space, far from any planets. Duri's ship approached slowly, transmitting normal trader signals. Now, Kyung commanded. Duri activated hidden thrusters, accelerating hard. Salman launched hacking drones toward the cargo ships. The drones latched on, her fingers flying across control panels. Alarms blared. The escort frigates turned, weapons charging. But Mirai moved. She flowed out of the airlock, her form expanding in the vacuum of space. Her scales glowed with inner light. She spread her wings and suddenly she was massive again, larger than Duri's entire ship. The Kethrans fired. Energy beams that could melt through starship hulls struck Mirai and simply vanished, absorbed by her scales. She roared, a sound that somehow carried through the vacuum, vibrating through ship hulls. Cargo locks opening, Soman reported. Grab what you can! They worked fast. Strange crystals that hummed with power, metals that seemed to glow from within, data cores containing technical information. Everything was loaded onto Duri's ship within 3 minutes. Mirai released the escort frigates from her gravitational grip. She had not destroyed them. only disabled their weapons and engines. "Go," she told Kyung through their ship's communicator. "Tell your people the dragon showed mercy today. Next time I may not." They jumped to hyperspace seconds before Kethrin reinforcements arrived. Back in Frosthaven's caverns, they unloaded their prizes. Mirai absorbed the crystals directly, her body glowing brighter. The metals would be used to build equipment. The data cores held treasures beyond measure. Hana worked with Somin to access the data. What they found made them both gasp. Star maps, hundreds of them. They showed human territories from 10,000 years ago. Humanity had controlled a quarter of the galaxy. Colonies on thousands of worlds, trade routes connecting hundreds of species. "This is what we were," Hana whispered. "This is what they took from us." But the data contained something else. Evidence. Proof that the Kethrins had framed humanity for crimes they did not commit. A false attack on a Kethrin colony, staged to turn the galaxy against humans. Messages between Kethrin leaders planning humanity's downfall. "We need to show this to everyone," Somin said. "The entire galaxy needs to know the truth." "Not yet," Kyung said grimly. "First, we need to be strong enough that they cannot simply destroy us for speaking the truth. First, we need the Starforge." As Mirai grew stronger, she demonstrated her abilities. One day, a colonist named Borum was badly injured in an accident. His internal organs were crushed. The colony's medical equipment was too basic to save him. Mirai came to the medical center, her form shrinking to fit through the doors. She placed her clawed hand on Borum's chest. Light flowed from her into him. His wounds closed. His broken bones mended. Within hours, he was sitting up, confused but alive. "How?" Teho asked. "Life is energy," Mirai explained. "I can share mine. It is what we dragons do. We protect. We nurture. We guard." She looked at the gathered colonists. "Your ancestors understood this. They never saw us as weapons. They saw us as partners." Word spread through Frosthaven. The dragon was not a monster. She was a healer. A protector. More colonists came to meet her. Some were afraid, but most were simply awed. Then the warnings came. Ambassador Velric of the Kethrin Dominion sent a message to Frosthaven. He knew about the raid. He knew about unusual energy signatures. He gave them a choice. Surrender whatever alien creature they were hiding or face orbital bombardment. Kyung called an emergency meeting. The colonists gathered in the main dome. Arguments erupted. Some wanted to surrender Mirai to save themselves. Others refused. Families were divided. Taiho stood and spoke. 20 years ago, we lost everything. They took our worlds, our dignity, our place in the galaxy. We accepted it because we were tired, because we were beaten. But we are not beaten anymore. Mirai offers us a chance, not just for revenge, but to reclaim who we are. An older woman named Gina stood. "And what if we lose? What if they kill us all?" "Then we die as humans," Taiho said. "Not as slaves hiding on a frozen rock. As humans." The vote was close, but in the end, Frosthaven chose to stand. They would not surrender Mirai. They would prepare to fight. 3 days later, Kethrin hunter teams arrived. 5 ships carrying elite soldiers and advanced weapons. They landed across the colony, surrounding the domes. Kyung organized the defense. He had perhaps 50 people with any military training, and their weapons were old, barely maintained. Against Kethrin hunters, they should have been slaughtered in minutes. But they had Mirai. The dragon rose from the caverns, her full size restored. She was glorious in the pale light of Frosthaven's distant sun. The Kethrin hunters stopped staring in disbelief. "A star dragon," one of them breathed. "Impossible." "They are all dead," Mirai spoke, her voice carrying across the ice. "I am Mirai, guardian of humanity. You who imprisoned me, who sought to destroy the people I protect, you will leave this world. Now." The Kethrins opened fire. Plasma weapons, energy rifles, even rocket launchers. The barrage was tremendous. But Mirai created a shield of bent gravity, and the attacks curved away harmlessly. Then she struck back. She did not kill. That was the remarkable thing. Her attacks disabled ships, destroyed weapons, but the Kethrin hunters themselves were mostly unharmed. She fought with precision, with control. She fought like a guardian, not a destroyer. The human defenders supported her. Taiho coordinated from the command center, directing people to where they were needed most. Kyung led squads that captured disabled Kethrin positions. Even Hana helped, using her knowledge to jam enemy communications. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Kethrin hunters were fleeing, their ships limping back into orbit. Frosthaven had won. But the cost was high. 23 colonists dead. The main dome was damaged. Food storage was destroyed. Taiho walked through the wreckage, helping the injured. He found Kyung sitting alone near the battlefield, staring at nothing. "We won," Taiho said. "We survived," Kyung corrected. "They will come back. Next time with more ships. We cannot stay here." Mirai landed beside them. "He is right. The Kethrans know I exist now. They will send everything they have to capture or kill me." She looked at the damaged colony. "We need to move. We need to find the Starforge. Can you find it?" Taiho asked. "Are you strong enough?" "I'm strong enough to try," Mirai said. "But we need a ship. Something that can travel the old routes through space that modern vessels cannot navigate." Dury stepped forward from the crowd. "I know of such a place. The Ghost Fleet, where the last human armada died. Thousands of ships, all derelict. Some might still function." Kyung's face changed. Pain and memory flashed across his features. "The Ghost Fleet. I lost my entire command there. Everything we had." "Then perhaps it is time to reclaim something from that place," Mirai said gently. "Perhaps it is time to wake the dead." The colonists prepared to evacuate. They would spread across other human settlements, hiding among the scattered refugees of their species. But a chosen few would accompany Taiho, Mirai, and Kyung on a dangerous journey. They were going to the graveyard of humanity's greatest defeat. They were going to find a ship, and then they were going home. Dury's freighter moved through Kethran space like a ghost. Mirai kept them hidden, wrapping the ship in fields that bent sensor readings. To any scanners, they appeared as nothing more than space dust and radiation. Inside the cramped ship, Taiho, Hana, Somin, Kyung, and 4 other volunteers lived in close quarters. The journey would take weeks. They passed Kethran patrol routes, slipping between checkpoints. Once they drifted within scanning range of a massive battle station. Everyone held their breath until they were clear. Kyung spent hours alone in the observation deck, staring at the stars. Taiho found him there one evening. "I failed them," Kyung said without preamble. 3,000 ships, 500,000 people. They trusted me to lead them. I led them to death. "You were outnumbered," Taiho said. "The entire galaxy turned against us. That is what I tell myself." Kyung's voice was hollow. "But I made the wrong choices. I should have retreated. Should have saved who I could. Instead, I tried for glory. For a victory that might change everything. And I got everyone killed." Mirai appeared beside them, her form compressed to fit the ship. "Guilt is a weight we carry, Admiral. But it need not be a chain. You survived. You learned. Now you lead again, wiser than before." After 3 weeks, they reached the nebula. It was beautiful and terrible. Gas clouds glowed in shades of purple and red. Lightning arced between particles. And everywhere, in every direction, were ships. Dead ships. Human ships, thousands of them. Carriers large as mountains. Destroyers and frigates, even small fighter craft frozen in their final attack runs. The Ghost Fleet stretched for millions of kilometers, a cemetery among the stars. Hana pressed her face to the viewport. "So many. How did we lose with so many ships?" "We were betrayed before the battle even started," Kyung said. "Our allies turned on us. Our supply lines were cut. These ships fought without ammunition, without fuel, without hope. They fought until there was nothing left." Mirai closed her eyes. "I feel them. Echoes. The humans who died here left their marks on this place. Their courage, their despair, their final thoughts." She opened her eyes and they were filled with tears. They called for help that never came. They died wondering why the galaxy had abandoned them. The search began. They moved from ship to ship, docking with hulls that had been breached, walking through corridors where bodies still remained. It was grim work. Taiho helped Kyung identify ships that might still function. On the 3rd day, Kyung stopped before a massive vessel. It was elegant despite the damage, sleek where other ships were blocky. The name was still visible on the hull. Wayseeker. "This one," Kyung whispered. "I know this ship." It was legendary even before the war. An exploration vessel from humanity's golden age. It could travel routes no other ship could follow. They boarded carefully. The interior was dark, emergency lights long dead. But as they explored, they found something remarkable. The ship was intact. Sealed sections had preserved it. The reactors were cold but undamaged. Somin and Hana worked to restore power. It took hours of careful work, but finally lights flickered on. Systems came alive, and a voice spoke, clear and strong. This is Wayseeker AI designation Aura. Identify yourselves. Everyone froze. An AI. The ship's artificial intelligence was still functioning after 10,000 years. We are humans, Taiho said carefully. We need your help. Scanning. A pause. Genetic markers confirmed. You are human. But your equipment is primitive. Your clothing is poor quality. What has happened? Why do you appear as refugees? Because that is what we are, Kyung said. The war ended badly. Humanity was defeated, scattered. This is all we have left. Another pause. When Ara spoke again, her voice carried something that sounded like grief. Then the worst possible outcome occurred. I had hoped during my long sleep that perhaps humanity had merely forgotten this place. But you were truly broken. Mireille moved forward. Do you remember the Star Dragons, Ara? Mireille, is that truly you? I had heard you were imprisoned by the Catherines. How are you here? I was freed. These humans freed me, and now I vouch for them. They seek the Starforge. They want to reclaim what was lost. The Starforge. Ara's voice became stronger. Yes. If humanity still exists, then the Starforge should be theirs again. I will help. But this ship needs repairs. Many systems are damaged. They worked for days. Soman proved to be brilliant, understanding the ancient systems faster than anyone expected. Hana assisted her, the two of them working in perfect harmony. Parts from other derelict ships were salvaged and installed. One day, Kyung asked Ara to take him to the ship's bridge. When they arrived, he stood in the doorway, unable to enter. Bodies were there, skeletons in uniforms still at their stations. The crew stayed until the end, Ara said softly. When life support failed, they remained at their posts. They died doing their duty. Kyung entered slowly. He moved to each station, reading the names on the uniforms. Captain Su, Navigator Hyun, Weapons Officer Bora. His voice broke. I knew them. I served with them on a different ship years before. They were good people. They gave the crew a proper funeral. Mirai performed a ceremony, her voice singing in tones that made the nebula itself seem to glow. The bodies were released into space, committed to the stars they had died defending. As they worked on the ship, they discovered the armory. It was sealed, protected by locks that required human genetic signatures. Inside were weapons unlike anything in the modern galaxy. Energy rifles that never needed recharging, armor that adapted to threats, drones that could think and act independently. This is incredible, Soman breathed. This technology is centuries ahead of what anyone has now. This is what we were, Mirai said. This is what the Catherines feared. Not just your weapons, but your ability to create them. Your endless innovation. Then the alarm sounded. Ara's voice rang through the ship. Warning! Multiple vessels entering the nebula. Catherine's signatures. Battlefleet configuration. They have found us. Through the viewports they saw them coming. Dozens of warships led by a massive dreadnought. Grand Marshal Ikaro had arrived with a fleet designed to destroy entire worlds. A transmission came through. Ikaro's face appeared on their screens. He was tall, his skin covered in ceremonial scars. His eyes burned with hatred. Humans, you have stolen Catherine property. You have awakened an abomination, and now you dare to defile the grave of your failed species. He smiled, cruel and cold. I will do what should have been done long ago. I will erase the ghost fleet from existence. No trace of humanity's past will remain. You will be forgotten completely. Kyung studied the tactical display. They were outnumbered 50-1. The Wayseeker was barely functional. They had no chance, Ara, he said calmly. What systems do we have operational? Engines at 40%. Shields at 60%. Weapons are mostly offline. We can fly, Admiral, but we cannot fight. Then we do not fight, Kyung said. We run, but we make them chase us through the ghost fleet. We use the dead ships as cover. The battle began. The Wayseeker launched, engines roaring to life for the first time in millennia. Catherine ships opened fire. Energy beams cut through the nebula. Missiles streaked between derelict hulks. Kyung proved his skill. He wove between dead ships, using them as shields. Catherine fire destroyed human derelicts, but the Wayseeker kept moving. Mirai left the ship, engaging enemy fighters directly. She was a blazing comet of destruction, her power fully restored. But there were too many. A lucky shot struck their engines. The Wayseeker spun out of control, crashing into the hull of a dead carrier. Alarms blared. Fires broke out. This is it, Kyung said quietly. We cannot run. We cannot fight. Ikaro has won. Taeho refused to accept it. Ara, is there any way to restore power to the other ships? The dead ones. They are derelict. Their crews are dead. Their power cores are... Ara paused. Wait, there is an ancient network. A defense grid that linked all human ships. If I could access it, broadcast a reactivation code. Do it, Taiho commanded. The code is 10,000 years old. The ships are damaged. The chance of success is minimal. We are humans, Hana said firmly. Minimal chances are what we do. Send the code. Era broadcast across all frequencies. An ancient activation sequence designed for desperate moments just like this. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. The Kethrin fleet moved in for the kill. Then lights began to appear. One derelict ship. Then 10, then hundreds. Across the Ghost Fleet, emergency systems activated. Automated defense protocols came online. The dead were waking, weapons charged. Targeting systems locked onto Kethrin vessels. And the Ghost Fleet opened fire. It was magnificent and terrible. Thousands of weapons firing in perfect coordination. The automated systems were old, damaged, but they remembered their purpose. They remembered their final orders: defend humanity. Ikaro's fleet was caught completely by surprise. Ships were crippled within seconds. His dreadnought took a barrage that would have destroyed a planet. He screamed orders, trying to retreat, but the Ghost Fleet had surrounded him. Mirai returned to the Wayseeker as Soman and Hana got the engines back online. They watched as the Kethrin fleet was systematically destroyed. Ikaro's personal ship managed to escape, jumping to hyperspace with heavy damage. The rest of his fleet was left burning among the dead. Silence fell over the nebula. One by one, the Ghost Fleet ships powered down again, their final duty complete. They had risen one last time to protect their descendants. Kyung stood on the bridge, tears streaming down his face. "Thank you," he whispered to the darkness. "Thank you for not giving up. Even in death you did not abandon us." Ara's voice was gentle. "They were humans, Admiral. Giving up is not what we do." With the Wayseeker repaired enough to travel, they prepared to leave. Mirai had the star charts. She knew the way. The Starforge waited in the dead sector, hidden behind barriers that only humans could cross. As they jumped to hyperspace, Taiho looked back at the Ghost Fleet one last time. So many dead, so much lost, but also so much preserved, so much hope. "We are coming home," he said to the stars. "Wait for us. We are finally coming home." The journey to the dead sector took 6 weeks. During that time, the crew trained with the Wayseeker systems. Ara taught them how to operate weapons they barely understood. Mirai showed Taiho how to sense the currents of space itself, ancient techniques the first human explorers had used. Hana spent hours in the ship's library, accessing files 10,000 years old. She learned about her ancestors. Not the defeated remnants she knew, but the proud explorers who had sailed beyond known space, the bridge builders who united dozens of species, the teachers who shared knowledge freely. "We were not warriors," she said to Taiho one evening. "Not really. We were explorers, scientists, diplomats. We built things. We connected people. That was our strength. And the Kethrins hated us for it," Taiho replied, "because we showed there was another way. Not domination, cooperation." On the 42nd day, they reached the edge of the dead sector. Sensors started going wrong immediately. Space itself seemed twisted here. Stars appeared in wrong places. Time moved strangely, minutes feeling like hours. "This is wrong," Soman said, studying her instruments. "Physics does not work right here." "It is like space is broken," Mirai explained. The dead sector was sealed by the ancient humans. They bent reality itself to hide their greatest works. Only those carrying human consciousness can navigate these waters safely. They moved deeper into the sector. Strange things drifted past the ship, wrecks of civilizations that existed before recorded history, crystals that hummed with impossible energies. Once they saw what looked like a ship from Earth's ancient past, somehow transported across time and space. "This place is a graveyard," Kyung said quietly. "How many civilizations tried to reach the Starforge and failed?" "All of them," Ara answered. "The barrier does not kill. It simply removes those who should not pass. Where they go, I do not know." Then they found it. The barrier. It appeared as a wall of light stretching infinitely in all directions. Beautiful colors swirled within it. But when Soman tried to scan it, her equipment simply stopped working. "I have seen ships touch that barrier," Mirai said. "They do not explode. They do not burn. They simply cease to exist as if they never were." "How do we pass?" Taiho asked. You must touch it, Mirai said. Physically. The barrier reads not just genetics but consciousness. It judges whether you truly carry the spirit of those who created it. Taiho suited up. The others wanted to come with him, but Mirai insisted only one could attempt the test. If he failed, the rest could try to escape. If he succeeded, they would all pass through. He left the airlock floating in space toward the barrier. It was massive up close, the light almost blinding. His hand reached out. The moment before he touched it, he hesitated. What if he was not worthy? What if 20 years of defeat had broken something essential in the human spirit? Then he thought of his crops. His endless attempts to make life grow on Frosthaven. He thought of Hana's curiosity. Kyung's determination. Sumon's brilliance. He thought of humans scattered across terrible worlds surviving because giving up was not in their nature. His hand touched the barrier. Images flooded his mind. The history of humanity from the first time they looked at stars and wondered, to the moment they built ships and sailed into the dark. He saw their triumphs. New worlds discovered. Species brought together. Peace where there was war. Knowledge shared freely, but he also saw the mistakes. The pride. The arrogance. Humanity had grown strong and forgotten to remain humble. They had stopped listening to others, believing they knew best. They had built walls when they should have built bridges. The barrier spoke not in words but in feelings. It asked a question. Have you learned? Taiho answered honestly. We learned that power without wisdom is destruction. We learned that greatness comes from lifting others, not standing above them. We learned that defeat can teach what victory cannot. He paused. We are broken. But we remember what we should be, and we want to try again, wiser this time. The barrier pulsed. Light surrounded Taiho, warm and welcoming. Then it parted, opening a path forward. He returned to the ship. It accepted me. We can pass. The Wayseeker moved through the barrier. For a moment, everything went white. Then they emerged into normal space. And there, before them, was the Starforge. It was beyond comprehension. A structure larger than planets, built around a small star that provided endless power. Rings of construction bays stretched for thousands of kilometers. Gardens visible from space grew in massive biodomes. Ships in various stages of completion floated in perfect formations. Home, Kyung whispered. This is what home looked like. They docked at a central station. The moment they connected, systems activated. Lights turned on. Air began circulating. A welcoming message appeared in ancient human script. They explored carefully. The station was vast, designed to house millions. Living quarters stretched for kilometers. Libraries contained knowledge from hundreds of civilizations. Factories sat silent but ready, capable of producing anything imaginable. In the central archive, they found the truth. Recordings left by humanity's last leaders. The decision to seal the Starforge had not been made in panic. It had been planned. Strategic withdrawal, not defeat. We grew too proud, one recording said. A woman with kind eyes and gray hair. We forgot to listen. We forgot to learn. The Kethrans exploited our weaknesses, turned the galaxy against us. But this is not the end. We seal this place for a future generation, one that remembers what we forgot, one that has learned humility through hardship. Hana was crying. They knew. They planned for us. They never gave up. But their celebration was cut short. Ara's alarm rang through the station. Warning. Multiple ships entering the sector. Kethran signatures. How is this possible? Ambassador Velric appeared on their screens. Behind him was a massive fleet, hundreds of ships, humans. Did you think you were the only ones with ancient technology? We have studied your barrier for millennia. We stole genetic samples. We created keys. He smiled coldly. And now we have found what we sought for so long. Surrender the Starforge or we will destroy you and take it anyway. Kyung studied the tactical display. They had one ship against hundreds. The Starforge had defenses, but they were automated, not nearly as effective as they could be with proper control. We cannot win this fight, he said. Then we do not fight, Taiho said. We build. Ara, can the factories produce ships? Yes, but it takes time. Even at maximum speed, we need hours to produce anything useful. Then buy us time, Taiho commanded. He looked at Mirai. Can you? The dragon smiled, fierce and proud. I'm not alone anymore. My kin have awakened. They felt the barrier open. They are coming. Mirai left the station, expanding to her full size. And she was not alone. From different directions, other star dragons appeared. Ancient beings who had hidden themselves for millennia. They had heard her call. They had answered. The Kethran fleet attacked. But the dragons were ready. They wove through space, their powers bending reality. Gravity waves disrupted formations. Energy shields protected the Starforge. Time itself seemed to slow around the dragons, giving them advantage. Inside the station, Somin and Hana worked frantically. They brought factory after factory online. The first ship emerged from the construction bays within an hour. Then another, then 10. Simple fighter craft, but equipped with weapons from humanity's golden age. Ara controlled them remotely, her consciousness splitting to pilot dozens of ships at once. They launched into battle, supporting the dragons. The Kethran fleet found itself facing an enemy that grew stronger with every passing minute. Tejo coordinated the defense from the command center. He had never commanded anything larger than a farm, but he understood systems. He understood growth. And he understood that every ship they built was a seed of hope. The battle raged for hours. The Kethran fleet was vast, but the Starforge was inexhaustible. As long as the factories ran, they could produce more ships. As long as the dragons held the line, they had time. Velric grew desperate. He launched his personal dreadnought toward the station, attempting to destroy the factories directly. But Mirai intercepted him. They clashed in space, dragonfire against plasma cannons. You cannot win. Velric screamed over open channels. Even if you survive today, we will return. The entire galaxy will come for you. You are still alone. Still hated, Tejo responded, his voice calm. We are not alone. We have each other. We have friends who remember what we once were. And we have learned from our mistakes, he paused. But you are right about one thing. The galaxy needs to know the truth. All of it. He activated a broad-spectrum transmission. The evidence they had found on Frost Haven. The proof of Kethran lies. The recordings from the archive showing humanity's true history. Everything was broadcast across every known frequency. Let everyone see, Tejo said. Let everyone know what really happened. Then let them choose. The transmission reached the entire galaxy. Billions of beings saw the truth. They saw humanity's rise and fall. They saw the Kethran manipulation. And they saw what humans were doing now. Defending themselves with precision. Showing mercy even in battle. Trying to build rather than destroy. Velric's fleet began to waver. Some captains questioned their orders. Others broke formation uncertain. The tide was turning not through military might but through truth. Mirai disabled Velric's dreadnought without destroying it. She could have killed him easily. Instead, she let him drift, powerless, watching as his fleet retreated. The battle was over. The Starforge stood intact. Around it floated dozens of newly constructed ships ready to defend their home. And across the galaxy, people were talking, asking questions, demanding answers from their leaders. Kyung stood beside Tejo in the command center. We won, but Velric was right. They will come again. Maybe not today, but eventually. Let them come, Tejo said. We are not the humans who fell 20 years ago. We remember who we were. We know who we want to be, and this time we will not face them alone. Messages began arriving. From Duri's people, the Vrelnians offering alliance. From other species the Kethrans had oppressed. Even from some Kethran colonies who rejected their government's actions. Humanity's broadcast had done more than prove their innocence. It had started a movement, but there was still one more step to take. The Galactic Council. They needed to face the government that had banished them, not with weapons but with truth. They needed to reclaim their place not through conquest but through justice. Hana looked at her father. Are we ready for that? Tejo smiled. No, but we will do it anyway. That is what humans do. The weeks following the battle were busy. Human colonies across the galaxy received the coordinates to the Starforge. Ships arrived daily, carrying refugees who had lived in exile for 20 years. They came with nothing but hope and found a home ready to welcome them. Tejo walked through the gardens, watching families settle into quarters. Children played in biodomes where earth plants grew under artificial sunlight. Old people cried, touching trees they thought they would never see again. These were his people, finally coming home. Kyung trained the newcomers who had military experience. The Starforge produced ships at an incredible rate and they needed crews. But he trained them differently than he had been trained, not just to fight but to protect. Not to conquer but to defend. Somin and Hana established an academy. Humans and aliens learned together. sharing knowledge freely as humanity once had. Duri brought students from his people. Other species sent representatives. The spirit of cooperation was returning, but the Galactic Council remained silent. They had not responded to humanity's broadcast. They had not acknowledged the evidence. And Ambassador Velric, though his fleet was destroyed, still held political power. They are afraid, Mirai said. Afraid to admit their mistake. Afraid of what truth means for their authority. Then the invitation came. The Galactic Council requested humanity's presence at an emergency session. They would hear testimony. They would review the evidence. But the message carried a warning. Come unarmed or be considered hostile. Kyung did not like it. It could be a trap. Velric has tried to kill us before. Then we go anyway, Taiho said. We cannot demand justice while hiding. We must face them. They prepared carefully. Taiho would speak for humanity, though he felt completely unqualified. Hana insisted on coming to represent the younger generation. Kyung would attend as military representative, and Mirai would come as witness to humanity's ancient past. The council station was massive, a neutral ground where species met to discuss matters of galactic importance. As the Wayseeker approached, they saw hundreds of other ships. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered. This session would be watched by billions. They docked and entered the grand chamber. It was designed to impress, with seats rising in circles around a central platform. Representatives from 100 species sat in judgment. And at the highest seat, Ambassador Velric waited, his face showing no emotion. The session began. Velric spoke first, presenting humanity as dangerous. He showed evidence of human military buildup at the Starforge. He claimed they were preparing to invade. His words were careful, designed to inflame fear. Then Taiho was called to speak. He walked to the central platform, feeling the weight of thousands of eyes. He was just a farmer. What could he say that would matter? He began simply. My name is Taiho. 20 years ago, I was an agricultural engineer. Then humanity was banished, and I became a farmer on a frozen world, trying to grow food where nothing should live. He paused. I am not a diplomat. I am not a warrior. I am just a man who refused to give up. He presented the evidence. The Kethran messages proving the frame. The recordings from the archive showing humanity's true intentions. The testimonies of species that remembered humans differently. He spoke calmly, letting the facts speak for themselves. We did not come here for revenge, Taiho said. We came here for justice. Not just for us, but for everyone. Because if the powerful can destroy the innocent through lies, then no one is safe. He looked directly at Velric. We are not your enemy. We never were. We only want what was taken from us, the right to exist, to grow, to contribute. Mirai was called next. When she entered the chamber in her humanoid form, whispers spread. Many had never seen a star dragon. She spoke of the ancient times, of humanity's role as bridge builders and peacekeepers. Her testimony carried the weight of 10,000 years. I have lived through the rise and fall of civilizations, Mirai said. I tell you now, humanity's only crime was success. They showed that cooperation works better than domination, and for that, they were destroyed by those who profit from division. The session continued for hours. Other species testified. Some supported humanity. Others were uncertain. The Kethran delegation tried to dispute the evidence, but their arguments grew weaker as more truth emerged. Then Grand Marshal Icaro arrived. He stormed into the chamber with his personal guard, his scarred face twisted with rage. Enough of this theater, he shouted. The council is weak. While you debate, the humans grow stronger. I will end this now. His guards raised weapons. Chaos erupted. Council members fled their seats. Kyung moved to protect Taiho and Hana. But before violence could begin, Mirai acted. She did not attack. She simply expanded, her dragon form filling half the chamber. Her presence was overwhelming, radiating power that made the air itself vibrate. Icaro's guards dropped their weapons, unable to move under the weight of her attention. No more, Mirai said, her voice echoing. For 10,000 years I have watched violence beget violence. It ends now. Grand Marshal, you have two choices. Face justice for your crimes or face me. Choose wisely. Icaro looked at her, at the power she represented, and something broke in him. He fell to his knees, decades of hatred crumbling. I cannot defeat you, he whispered. I cannot defeat what you represent, Taiho approached him. Then stop trying. The war ended 20 years ago. Let it end in your heart, too. The chamber fell silent. Council members returned to their seats. The session resumed, but the mood had changed. They had seen humanity offer mercy to their greatest enemy. They had seen power restrained by choice, not weakness. The vote took 3 days. The council reviewed all evidence, heard all testimony. Species debated among themselves. Old alliances were questioned. New possibilities emerged. In the end, the decision was clear. Humanity was innocent. Their banishment was unjust. The Kethran Dominion would face sanctions for their deception, and humanity would be restored to full council membership, with rights to reclaim former territories and receive reparations. But more important than the legal victory was what followed. Species that had avoided humans for 20 years now approached them. Trade agreements were proposed. Cultural exchanges, scientific cooperation. The galaxy was remembering what humanity once meant to them. Velric was removed from power. He stood before Taiho one final time before being taken into custody. "You won," he said bitterly. "But do not think this changes anything. The powerful will always try to control the weak. Then we will resist," Taiho replied. "Not with weapons. With truth, with cooperation, with the simple refusal to give up." He paused. "You saw us as weak because we were scattered. You were wrong. Our strength was never in domination. It was in the connections we built, the hope we carried, the gardens we grew in frozen soil." The Wayseeker returned to the Starforge in triumph. But Taiho did not stay to celebrate. He had other work to do. He chose a world from the star maps, a planet that had been human territory once, now abandoned and wild. He took seeds from the Starforge gardens. And he started a farm. Kyung became humanity's military coordinator, but he led differently than before. His fleets trained for defense, for rescue operations, for peacekeeping. They became known not as warriors, but as guardians. Soman and Hana's academy grew, attracting students from hundreds of species. They taught not just technology, but philosophy. Not just how to build things, but why to build them. The academy became a symbol of humanity's return to their core values. Mirai and the other star dragons formed bonds with various species. They became partners, advisors, friends. They ensured no single race could dominate the galaxy as the Kethrans had tried. Years passed. The Starforge became a hub of activity, ships coming and going daily. Human settlements spread across dozens of worlds, but they grew differently this time. They built alongside other species. They shared everything they learned. They remembered the lessons of their fall. One day, Hana visited her father on his farm. She was older now, respected as a brilliant engineer and teacher. She found Taiho in the fields working with students from 3 different species, teaching them about sustainable agriculture. "You could have been anything," Hana said. "Leader of the council, commander of fleets, hero of humanity. But you chose to be a farmer." Taiho smiled, dirt on his hands, sun on his face. "I was always a farmer, Hana, that never changed. I just learned that gardens can be many things. Fields of grain, academies of knowledge, friendships between species. All of it is growing, nurturing, tending life." Mirai landed nearby, her massive form somehow gentle despite its size. She had taken to visiting the farm regularly, enjoying the peace after millennia of conflict. "Your father is wise," Mirai said to Hana. "The humans I knew long ago forgot this. They tried to build empires instead of gardens. They sought dominion instead of growth." She looked at Taiho fondly. "But some of you remembered. Even in the darkest cold, you kept tending your fields." That evening, a message arrived. A distant signal, possibly from another ancient civilization. An opportunity for exploration, for discovery, for everything humanity once excelled at. Hana looked at her father. "We should investigate. Assemble a crew." Taiho considered it. His farming could wait.